What is a situation you have almost no sympathy with?
Hey people of Reddit, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're unwrapping an awesome stories of the situation that you think it's normal to have no sympathy. Well, grab your seat for this awesome journey. Before we start with the first story, hit that subscribe button and ring that bell to stay updated with us.
Number 15. When a parent abuses their child so much that their child eventually grows up and disowns them. I especially don't care when the parent then has no one to care for them in their old age. Yup, one of my childhood friends had an extremely abusive mom. Not physically, but verbally, and she treated the poor girl like a house slave, making her do literally all the housework from age 8 or so, while openly spoiling her sister. Why? The abused girl was her shame child, aka the baby that resulted from a night of drunken fun with a stranger, which in their culture is a huge taboo. The other sister was from a marriage, so she was the one worthy of love. Anyway, this girl spent a lot of time at my house from the time we were 7 and 8 to the time she graduated. Sleepovers every weekend, and my parents basically treated her like a second daughter. The second she turned 18, she moved all the way across the country. She was smart as a whip, so she had no trouble getting accepted to an Ivy League school, and my dad co-signed her loans. She's a doctor now, living her best life in a big city, while her sister is struggling to make ends meet with a deadbeat guy and pregnant with number 3. Instead of being proud of her incredibly smart and strong daughter who started life in a Manila slum, but managed to achieve more than most people born into privilege, her mom asked when she's going to buy her a house since she's rich now. My friend laughed and hung up and never spoke to her mom again. She still talks to us, but neither mom nor her golden child sisters so much as get a text at Christmas. She is an absolute queen in my book, and I have zero sympathy for her mom. Number 14. Had a friend whose boyfriend cheated on her like 5 times in 2 years. Always calling me at 3 a.m. crying, calling him names, and saying she is dumping him. She ended up marrying him in the first phone call I got a hum up. You married the fool, you deal with it and quit waking me up. Number 13. Driving drunk. Actually zero sympathy with. One of my now former friends said that driving drunk is his right. He went berserk when he was charged with a DUI. He said that he went to jail because he was using his freedom wrong. No doubt, it's because you were putting others' lives in danger. I grew up with an alcoholic father who drove impaired 90% of the time. He almost got us more times than I can count. No sympathy. He's the reason why I only drink 1 or 2 drinks maybe once a year. Number 12. My wife has a friend who, after her 7th or 8th DUI, finally got sentenced to a short time in prison. A couple of months, my wife was horrified. Not me. I fucking despise people who drive on drugs, even more so because I love drugs. I love getting fucked up and having a great time. I'll hit the bong all afternoon and watch cartoons. I'll do shots or chug beers with my friends. Next month, I'll be seeing Tool on a whole lot of LSD. And because I've spent so much time intoxicated, I know for a fact that you absolutely should never drive a fucking car while you're doing it. She could have killed someone, including herself. Do your drugs in a safe adult setting and stay there. Or get a ride for fuck's sake. The best part? Her time in the box saved her life. She got out and got sober, started going to a church, met a nice man, lost a bunch of extra weight. A couple years later, we attended her wedding, and it was lovely. Everyone's so happy that she sorted her life out. I'm no fan of the prison industrial complex, but there are people who can massively benefit from a timeout and a stern lecture. Number 11. People who text and drive. Because of someone who did just that, I lost a family member who should still be alive right now. Because of the person who texted while driving, my grandpa died. He should still be here. He should have seen me learn to drive, go on a first date, attend school dances, graduate high school, and witness me turn 21. But that never happened because someone thought their phone was more important than the people around them on the road. I miss him every day, and soon it'll be 9 years since he passed. Number 10. Coming from someone with quite significant mental issues, I empathize but do not sympathize for people blaming bad/inappropriate behavior on mental illness. Your mental health can be a reason but not an excuse for poor behavior. If you are aware of your mental issues, you need to take the proper actions to act appropriately and/or take accountability for your actions. Yes, mental illness 10,000% affects how you think and act, But it is also your job to take accountability rather than blaming your inappropriate behavior on something that you know you have to work around. There are obviously exceptions when it comes to very, very serious mental illnesses that are not controllable, but if you are at that point, you should be taking steps to work on / with it to keep yourself and others safe. But at the end of the day, other people should never be treated poorly just because you have a mental illness. Number 9. People who keep crying over their situation but refuse to make any changes to make their situation better. Edit. I do still sympathize with them, of course, but it just seems pointless because it ended up hurting me instead. Also, this was directed toward a very specific situation in my life, not an attack on anyone who is stuck in a rut and has actual issues which are next to impossible to sort out. I hope and pray anyone who is going through something like this can come out of it stronger, whatever the situation may be. Number 8. People who chose drugs over their children. I am a victim of this. Because my mother was a heroin addict, and my father died when I was a toddler, I was a victim of every type of abuse known to man. I was never safe, I was always hungry and sick, and I was always humiliated by her actions. The other kids and their parents knew she was an addict, so they were not allowed to be friends with me. My only Christmas memory was her being high, falling, and knocking down the Christmas tree. I wasn't going to post here, but your comments set me off with one type of behavior that I find unconscionable. It's your friend's parents. Those adults saw a child in an unsafe environment and clutched their pearls. My friend fell on hard times and said that she was ashamed that her neighbors could hear her and her kids yelling all the time. They made it and are thriving. I felt my anger rise and told her, your neighbors should be ashamed that they never stepped in to help a single mother and 3 young children who need some help. What does it take to bring a casserole or invite the mom for a cup of coffee? I'm so sorry that you were abandoned by people that could have given you some solace while you grew up. Hope all is well. I'll be sending you good vibes whenever I think about your post. Number 7. Abusive parents who grow old and lonely with no contact from their children. Anti-vaxxers / COVID deniers who caught COVID and died or became COVID lawn haulers. I do have sympathy for those who lost loved ones or are suffering secondary consequences of lawn haulers. People who complain about money issues yet eat out every day, drink all the time, and order their food from DoorDash. Uber Eats, et al. Number 6. Parents who don't discipline their children for poor behavior and then complain about how the whole world is against little Billy Bob for doing normal childhood antics. Read, crimes. Also, parents who use an iPad to babysit and then complain that their child has no attention span and has meltdowns when they take it away. Number 5. History class at school. A boy copied and pasted his essay from Wikipedia and didn't even take the annotation numbers out, and he was old enough that he should have known way better. The teacher was a strict man, and you can guess how that went. I cheated on my homework at school too, but that was just laziness. Number 4. My sister-in-law has walked out of half a dozen jobs in as many months and now is having trouble getting hired. I used to prepare her resume for her, but I'm not anymore. I can't polish a turd. I mean, she literally told her boss I quit in the middle of a shift and walked out 6 times. I don't know what she's looking for from employment, but whenever she encounters anything remotely unpleasant or difficult, she bails. She has a shitty homeschool education and no training or certification, so her employment options are pretty limited. Number 3. I cheated on my wife, and now she left me, woohoo sir, whoa. This reminds me how Nanny cheated on her husband, and he left her. But then she went and him instead and ate his glomerulus with only half a hand and a lost limb. She is so badass even though she was reduced to being a vegetable after her murder attempt, by being beaten off in jail. So sad. So angry too, I feel it coming. Number 2. I work a lot with families from diverse socioeconomic backgrounds. I try to show and embody as much empathy as I can because my parents were once in really tight places too. But it fucking drives me insane when a parent has money for weed and cigarettes, but their child has no food after school or clean diapers. I really struggle with the idea that people are that selfish. Your kid doesn't deserve to wear diapers 12 to 14 hours at a time so you can get high. I just watched the Mr. Rogers video where he said to look for the helpers. I hope we all can seize the opportunities to become one when we can. Edit. A lot of people are pointing out addiction not being a choice, and I get that. But the OP asked where I struggled and I answered honestly, But I really appreciate the discussion it is starting around being there for kids facing all kinds of neglect and abuse. I was 14 when my sister and I dragged a mattress from our parents' garage up the hill to our friend's house, because we learned he was forced to sleep on the floor. Not due to space or poverty, but sheer neglect by his father, an officer in the military. We got to make his room comfortable for him, and he got to sleep on a bed for the last year and a half of living at home before he got out. And because there were now outside eyes, the neglect lessened as he knew my father was also military. I think it is truly amazing the stories shared here, and I want you all to know I have read each of them. Number 1. A girl I knew from high school burglarized a house for drug money, got caught, and was sentenced to pay restitution at a low amount over the course of several years. One day she started posting on Facebook, begging people for money or she would go to jail, saying the judge had decided to make her pay the rest of the amount in full right then. When I checked the court documents, it turned out she had been telling the court she couldn't afford the payments, and when her victim checked on Miss Burglar's social media, she was posting about getting her hair and nails done and a short cruise she had recently taken, and the victim lodged a complaint with the court. Posting about that part in the comments got me blocked, but I think a few people got their money back from her stupid GoFundMe. I had no chill and no sympathy for the crap she pulled, and I still don't. ETA. She raised the remaining money she owed from friends and family, so she got off scot-free with a pity story. That's a wrap, folks. So, what do you think of those stories? Do you agree with them? So, now your turn. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you like more of this, please hit a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. I'll see you in the next video.